Let's bring in Gordon Bethune. He's the former chairman and CEO of Continental Airlines. And Gordon, I'm guessing you got to be pretty glad you're not running an airline these days.
You bet, Becky. It's a rough road to hoe for them today. I really sympathize with them.
What would you be doing at this point? What should we be thinking about as citizens, and then what should policymakers be thinking about when they look at what's happening at these companies right now?
Well, like your other guests in other industries, they're cutting costs as dramatically and quickly as they can. Obviously, it's hard to get ahead of such a precipitous fall in demand. And of course, they have a cash constraint, and so they're trying to amass cash while conserving the cash they do have, which can get awful ugly. Taking airplanes out of service and returning them to lessors it's very hard to get them back and get things up and running. So every day it's going to be more and more difficult for them to return to normal.
Hey, Gordon, I didn't realize until very recently kind of how airlines operated, just using the ticket fees that you charge customers. That's kind of like their float, right? Like you're using the money that you're being paid for future bookings as a way to keep the company afloat and kind of get it out to that position. What happens when customers dry up and nobody's booking? We were talking to Phil LeBeau earlier about how steeply bookings dropped off in March, and it looks like it's going to rapidly accelerate.
Well, that's when your credit line comes into play, and of course a revolver is set up normally in most companies to be able to tap into that credit reserve. But you're right, Becky. There's a 90-day kind of window, and you're selling tickets 90 days in advance. That means you're getting that revenue in today, but you're not creating the liability for 90 days. So that has to be a moving target, and hopefully this one will be a shorter gap to catch up with. But every day, every day it gets deeper.
Hey, Gordon, can you talk about how you might think a bailout should be structured? And the reason I ask is we've now gone through booms and busts of the airline business over the last 20 years. There's one view, which is that we should just help all corporations, in which case, invariably, the airlines would be helped too. There's a different one, which is, I think, where Joe was talking about, which is how important the airlines are to the economy. And if we were to bail out the airlines and do it specifically to the airlines, the question is whether the approach would have to ultimately be different, which is to say that you'd want, I think, as taxpayers, to say to the airlines, okay, we're happy to bail you out. We don't want to ever do this again. Therefore, we're going to treat you like the banks. You're going to have to create a rainy day fund. You're not going to be able to do stock buybacks for many, many years until you can build a cushion so that the next time something like this happens, you can withstand it and we don't have to do this ourselves.
Well, that might be part of a regulatory solution. Obviously, as Joe pointed out, this place, the world, doesn't work without aviation. You can't get to Tokyo for a meeting. You can't do anything. Hawaii closes. So it's part and parcel of the daily heartbeat of this company. And if it goes away or it gets inhibited so much that it can't meet demand, you're going to temper growth in the economy. So there's a fine balance. I think the government should step in with at least loan reserves or guaranteed loan reserves or direct loans.
You don't think private money would come in if it went through a typical bankruptcy?
Well, I don't know. That's so catastrophic to so many people that they're going to avoid that to the extent they can. I don't think our country should let that happen. I mean, if we're going to bankrupt companies from loss of demand, they have operating certificates issued by the government to provide this transportation, and they ought to remain in place. I really hate to see a bankruptcy occur. I don't think the government should let it happen.